When Barack Obama went to the Democratic convention assured of the nomination, he was about to make history as the first African-American presidential nominee of a major political party. The question was, would the American people elect him? Hillary Clinton had helped heal Democratic divisions after a bitter primary fight, but Obama entered the convention locked in a dead heat with Republican opponent John McCain.
I accept your nomination.
Obama's acceptance speech attracted 84,000 people to Invesco Field in Denver and another 40 million to their television sets all across America, more people than watched the opening ceremony of the Olympics. We were waiting backstage just moments after the most improbable nominee, joined by his vice presidential choice, Joe Biden, had given the biggest speech of his career. Did you ever doubt it was going to happen?
Of course.
When?
Well, let's see. About a year ago, we were down 30 in Iowa. But I never doubted that it could happen. I never doubted that if we were able to mobilize the energy that you saw in that stadium all across the country.
I knew it was going to happen before he did. I was running like the devil. I watched. I thought I was pretty good, but I watched. This guy just sort of grabbed the lightning, it just grabbed it. And you could tell, Barack, I tell you, my team knew, I knew in August.
Steve, good to see you.
By the time we continued the conversation with them the next day in Pittsburgh, the political landscape had already changed.
Some of life's greatest opportunities come unexpectedly.
That morning, Senator John McCain tried to steal the Democrats' thunder by announcing that Alaska Governor Sarah Palin would be his running mate. What do you think of Senator McCain's vice presidential choice?
She seems to have a compelling life story. Obviously, she's a fine mother and a up-and-coming public servant. My sense is that she subscribes to John McCain's agenda.
Does the fact that he chose as his vice president someone who has less experience than you take that weapon out of his arsenal?
Well, I think that's a good question to address to Senator McCain.
For Joe Biden, it wasn't a question of being unknown by the public, but rather of being too well known. I mean, you have had, you from time to time put your foot in your mouth?
Sure I have.
I'm certain that Senator Obama was aware of that.
I'm confident. Everybody's aware of it.
Right. But Biden brought strengths too, foreign policy experience and a connection to the blue-collar workers in states like Ohio and Pennsylvania that Obama failed to win over during the primaries. You even tried bowling.
Now,
so
time out a second.
My question is, Senator...
I've got to defend my bowling honor here. It is true that my bowling score left something to be desired. The reason I was there was to campaign, and we had great fun. But here's the bottom line. I wouldn't have been elected to the United States Senate out of Illinois, which is 12% African American, if I didn't have some broad appeal. So the mythology that's developed that somehow I can't get those votes is refuted by the very fact that I'm sitting in this chair.
A few weeks later, we caught up with Obama campaigning in Elko, Nevada, a heavily Republican mining town of 20,000 people in a remote corner of a state with only 5 electoral votes.
Barack Obama.
It was not the kind of place you would expect to find a Democratic presidential candidate with 47 days left till the election. But this was Obama's 3rd trip, hoping to scrounge a few thousand votes that might make the difference in carrying this battleground state and put him in the White House.
John McCain actually said that if he's president, he'll take on, and I quote, the old boys network in Washington. I'm not making this up. This is somebody who's been in Congress for 26 years. The old boys network. In the McCain campaign, that's called a staff meeting.
By then, McCain's campaign was in serious trouble. The emerging crisis on Wall Street had broken his post-convention momentum. The economy, Obama's strongest issue, was on everyone's mind, and Obama was doing his best to keep it there. This is the most aggressive speech I've seen you give it in a while. What changed?
Well, partly it's just we're getting closer to the election. Partly, as you will recall, we, for several weeks, were putting up with a lot of silliness from the other side. Britney Spears ads, We were talking about lipstick and pigs, and one of the things that we felt very strongly was that we had to make the contrast between John McCain's economic agenda and ours very clear.
Thank you, guys.
That clarity was in part responsible for Obama's resurgence in the polls. McCain, saddled with the unpopularity of the Bush administration and much less money to spend, would never regain the lead. But there were still questions about Obama's lack of executive experience. Why do you think you'd be a good president?
Well, I think that when you think about the challenges we face, these are challenges that require us to look forward and not backwards.
Yeah, I just, why you? I mean, why do you think you would be a good president?
Well, I was going to get to that.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I think both by training and disposition, I understand where we need to take the country.
But what is there specifically about you? You mentioned disposition. What skills and traits do you have that would make you a good president?
I'm a practical person, but somebody who I think can cut through some very complicated problems and figure out the right course of action. Now, there's one other element that I think is important that we need in the presidency right now, and that is somebody who understands what it's like to struggle.
On Election Day, Obama took states the Democrats hadn't carried in decades, including Indiana, North Carolina, Virginia, and Nevada. And on an unseasonably warm and thoroughly historic November night, he appeared before hundreds of thousands of people at Grant Park in Chicago as the President-elect of the United States.
Change has come to America.
2 hours after the speech, once and future spokesman Robert Gibbs, who had lost his voice that night, reflected on the campaign strategy.
We competed everywhere. There wasn't a state we didn't go to, regardless of its size, that we didn't think we could compete in. Caucus states and primary states.
David's mantra for the general election was that we were going to enlarge the playing field and that we weren't going to run the same campaigns that had been run in the past where it all came down to just one state, at 3 or 4 in the morning.
You ran an incredibly effective and disciplined campaign. How did you manage that? Even the Republicans were in awe.
Well, it starts with the candidate. His motto is no drama.
How big a role did he play in this campaign?
Well, no one had a bigger role. The great thing about our campaign was we didn't have a lot of discussion about what our message was or what he wanted to do. From the beginning, he knew exactly what he wanted to say. And it's one of the reasons we were successful. A lot of campaigns will spend hours every day wondering about how to change their message. And he was pretty clear about what he wanted to say, where he wanted to take the country, and either people would accept it or they wouldn't.